Good morning, everybody. Welcome to session number 3 at the Systems and Workflow Bootcamp. Thank you for joining us. Big thank you if this is your third session of the day, if you've managed to attend the other 2 sessions, the marketing one and the proposal one that we've just had. Thanks for taking the time to be here. We're just going to hang on for a few more minutes before we get started. But whilst we're doing that, if you could please go to the chat box, it's just located at the bottom of your Zoom bar. And if you could just let me know in the chat box, what is the single biggest takeaway or insight that you're looking to get out of this session right now? So myself and Jacques, who I've got here on the line from Xama, we're going to be talking all things onboarding. So if you could just go to the chat box and just share with us whilst we're waiting to get started, what is it that you're looking to get out of this session? What is it that you're looking to kind of glean or learn or improve from? So we've got Vijay looking to learn and improve AML. Abby, less time to onboard as this is a huge admin headache. Yeah, absolutely. Onboarding is a massive admin headache when we're not automating and streamlining the process. Collect how to automate onboarding for new clients. Emma says streamlining this laborious process. Louise says efficiency. Yeah, looks like we're all here for the same thing, which is good to see. Jeff says better automation. Perfect. Nice. If you're just joining, I've just asked everybody to go to the chat box and just share what is the biggest takeaway that you're looking to get out of this session now. We're going to get started in just 1 minute's time. Janet says streamlining and efficiency. Pamela says, I want to know more about practice management. Cool. All right. Penelope, systemizing, automating, and streamlining the onboarding process. Yeah, we're going to be covering all of this, guys. You're in the right place. All right. So, a few housekeeping rules before we get started. If you've been to the other 2 sessions, you're probably bored to death of me going through these already. The first is just mute your phone, close your emails, lock your door and focus. Make the most out of the time that we have together here today. If you have any questions, if I could please ask you to use the Q&A box and not the chat box. That just helps us to keep track of the questions and as we answer them. But alternatively, if you want to talk amongst yourselves and share ideas between each other, then feel free to use the chat for that purpose. Remember to get social. We have a hashtag Systems and Workflow Bootcamp. I'd love it if you can go on Twitter or LinkedIn, Facebook, and just share a post. Let us know what's been your biggest insight so far or any other takeaways, and just use the hashtag and we'll be sure to engage on that with you. And then last but by no means least, please hang around until the end of the session because we do have some special giveaways for you. Amanda in her 9 a.m. session gave away a free hard copy of her new book that's on Amazon. I think it sells for like £10. Pete in the session before was giving away free workflow mapping sessions, which are incredibly valuable if you want to map out what your processes look like. And both myself and Jacques, we have some giveaways for you at the end of this session as well. So make sure you stick around until the end and we'll be sharing those with you. So today's agenda, we are right now on session number 3, onboarding systems. We've already done marketing, we've already done proposal and payment systems. If you've missed either of those, don't worry, we'll share the recordings with you afterwards. After this session, we have the final session of the day, which is all about advisory systems, and that's going to be with Helen from Futurely. So stay around for that session if you want to learn more about how to position and sell advisory services to your clients. If you haven't already seen our workflow template library, then please feel free to check it out. The link is just on the slides there. It's usepixie.com/workflow templates. We have a collection of just over 50 workflow templates available for various different things like bookkeeping, onboarding, taxes, payroll. And these are just really to help you get started, right? Because often finding the time to build these processes and workflows from scratch is incredibly time consuming. And as we already know, you're incredibly busy, and finding just a few hours a week is quite difficult. So hopefully those workflow templates serve as a bit of a jumping off point and a starting point in your workflow journey. Cool. So let's kick things off. This session is all about onboarding, and we're going to be sharing the systems that you need to streamline and automate your new client onboarding process. And I can see that a number of people in the chat have already been saying that they want to systemize, they want to streamline, they want to automate. And that's exactly what we're going to be going through in this session today. Daryl, can we add templates link to the chat? Yep. Give me 2 seconds. See how fast I can type. There we go. So what we're going to be covering in this session, the first thing that I just want to spend some time looking at is really the role of onboarding in the accounting firm. I think onboarding is this buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, especially by tech companies like Pixie, Practice Ignition, everybody else. But I think it's probably worth just spending 2 or 3 minutes just actually, getting on the same page and defining exactly what does onboarding mean? What are the goals? What are we looking to achieve and do in this process? Once we've done that, we're going to look at the key challenges of onboarding. So there's a few challenges that typically come up time and time again in our research. And more importantly, we're going to be spending some time looking at what we can actually do to solve those challenges. And the things that we're going to be doing to solve those challenges are these 3 key elements of onboarding that we should really be focusing on. So we've distilled all of these challenges down into 3 key focus areas that you can go away and focus on in your practice in order to make onboarding more streamlined, more automated, and save some time as well. A little bit later on, we're going to see a nice demo of Xama. So Xama is an AML product, and Jacques is going to be showing us just how streamlined and automated it is in order to request AML information from your clients and get them onboarded in your firm. So please stick around for that demo. It's going to be incredibly valuable later on. All right, so first things first, what is onboarding? So if you could please open your phones. I know I told you not to do that earlier. I'm breaking my own rules, sorry. So open your phone, or alternatively go to another browser window and just type in that website there. It's www.slido.com. Once you get to the website, I'm going to put the link in the chat. It's going to ask you to enter a code, and the code that you need to enter is Pixie. And once you've entered that code, it's going to ask you to start sharing some different words and terms. And what I'd like you to do is just start typing different words and terms that you would just use to describe onboarding, or that you would typically associate with an onboarding process. And I've given you some examples there at the bottom just to kick things off. So things like requesting information, managing expectations, letters of engagement. These are all words and terms that we would use, to describe or associate with an onboarding process. So if you could please just open the phone, go to another browser window. The website is www.slido.com. Enter the code Pixie, P-I-X-I-E, and then you can start sharing some of those words. I'm going to share my screen in a second and show you as those come in. And it's just going to help us to get on the same page and understand what's important and what people typically associate with the onboarding process. So hopefully this works. This is the first time I've ever used this in a live webinar. It did work when I tested it earlier. So fingers crossed it works for us now. There we go, magic. Look at the words coming through just like that. So we've got things like AML, setting up the client, setting the tone, that's nice. Relationship management, explaining the process, hand-holding, confirming clients. This is really hard to keep up with, by the way. I should have practiced this with more words. Letters of engagement, yep. Meeting the team, that's a nice one. Yeah, we're going to be covering a bit more about client experience later on, and I think that's a really important aspect. Professional service, absolutely. Admin, yeah, there's a lot of admin that goes into the onboarding process. Nightmare. At least somebody's being honest this morning. Thank you. Workflow, yep. Correct process for AML. Okay. Client portal logins. Yeah, look, the point here is, guys, there is so much that goes into onboarding. Like, onboarding is not just this single small process. There is a lot that goes into it. We've got like AML, we've got relationships. AML's the biggest thing by far here. Look at that. We've got getting to know the client. We've got some actual relationship stuff in terms of managing those expectations, hand-holding them. Professional clearance, yeah, that's huge as well. All right, guys, I'm just going to stop this for now. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's incredibly useful. It's also given me a bit of a buzz because I know that this tool now works and I can use it in more presentations. So thank you for being my live guinea pigs there. So when it comes to onboarding, as we can see, there is a lot of information here, and I think we can actually distill this down into 2 different streams just to kind of make sense of where things fall. And the 2 streams that we can distill it down to are, number 1, internal, and this is really what we need to do to set ourselves up for success. So, requesting all of the information and dealing with all the admin, scheduling tasks and work, making sure that we're covered from a compliance standpoint, so letters of engagement, anti-money laundering, and then also setting things up on various systems and apps. But as well as the internal stuff, there's also this external side. And I think the external stuff is really to do with, how do we set our clients up for success? So welcoming them into the firm, managing their expectations. I saw some words on the other slide around stewardship and hand-holding. How do we do that process with our clients so that we leave them with a really good first impression to help them, make them feel like they made the right decision, but also, build some trust and build some loyalty early on in the relationship. Cool. So now that we have a kind of a better understanding of everything that goes into onboarding, and it is a lot that goes into onboarding, let's just spend some time unpacking what the key challenges are of onboarding, because before we can actually figure out how to streamline and automate our own onboarding process, we really need to understand what are the problems that we're trying to solve. So to keep it engaging, I'm going to launch a poll. So you can do this one inside Zoom. You don't need to go anywhere else. I'm just going to launch this now. And the poll is, what areas of onboarding do you struggle with the most? So we've got getting information in from clients, managing client expectations, keeping track of all the tasks, wowing new clients and leaving them with a good first impression, dealing with the compliance side of things, and scheduling work for yourself and your team. So if you can just take a few seconds, please, to share your results there. It gives me a chance to have a breather and a sip of water. Cool. So I'm just going to hang on for 5 more seconds whilst we wait for the remaining people to vote. Just over 70% voted so far. Go on, if you're on the line and you're listening, cast your vote, please. It's really helpful for us to understand what are the biggest problems that you're facing when it comes to onboarding. So we're going to close that down in 3, 2, 1. End poll, and I'm going to share the results with you. So, okay, it won't let me share the results. So it won't let me share the results, but I'll read them off to you. In first place, we have dealing with the compliance side of things, 54%. Then we have keeping track of all the tasks that need to be done at 46%, getting information in from clients at 44%, managing client expectations is down at 15%, wowing new clients and leaving a good first impression is at 33%. So this is exactly what I would expect to see, and it kind of lines up with some of our research, but also some of those are a little bit higher than normal. So in our research, we found that 71% of firms said that keeping track of onboarding tasks was a challenge. And it's the second most popular one here, so that kind of supports that. We also found that 67% of firms said that giving clients a good experience was a challenge. So it's not just a case of dealing with all that internal stuff that I was referring to earlier, but also the external stuff and making sure that we're giving our clients the best possible experience during those first few weeks and months. 50% said that getting information in from clients was a challenge. We can see 44% in the poll here, which is, kind of supports that as well. And we also found that the average time taken to onboard a new client completely, and this is distributed across multiple weeks, is roughly between 4 to 6 hours per client. So that's quite a bit of time that goes into getting the client fully onboarded and set up. And we also found that 60% of firms said that they had a manual and time-consuming onboarding process. So this is a process that isn't really automated, isn't probably particularly streamlined, and is taking them way too much time to get things done. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 onboarding focus areas that we can focus on in order to get over these challenges and really start to streamline and automate things in your firm. Just keeping an eye on the chat and Q&A. Cool. So the first thing that we want to focus on is standardization. And the reason that we want to focus on standardization is to really overcome this challenge here about keeping track of all of the onboarding tasks. Because in order to keep track of tasks, and to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do within the onboarding process, we need a process. So we need to standardize, and we need to create that standardized onboarding workflow. So the first thing that we need to do is really document our onboarding process for everybody to follow. I know in the session before with Peter Practice Ignition, one of the polls that he launched was around, do you have your onboarding workflows or your just general workflows mapped and documented? And I think a large number of people said that they're in your head, but they haven't been visually documented somewhere. Now, if it's just yourself in the business and you're a sole practitioner, then it's okay for things to be in your head because it's just you that's doing them. But as you start to scale and you want to bring team members on, whether they're contractors, part-timers, full-timers, if it lives in here, it's really difficult for other people to follow. So the first thing that we need to do is document the onboarding workflow process. The second thing that we need to do is that we need a system to be able to track these workflows and get visibility over all of the various aspects. So it's one thing to actually have the process. The second thing is to have somewhere where we can actually track the process and make sure that we're doing everything and completing everything on time. So first of all, in terms of documenting your workflow, Pete already went through this in his session before, but if you weren't in the practice ignition session, one of the things that is really helpful to do is just to map out the onboarding process that you have in your firm, very much like a flow chart. It doesn't have to be really complicated. You don't have to use any fancy software. You can literally do it on pen and paper, just write it out. You can use sticky notes. It doesn't matter. Just map out the process really quickly and just identify what the key steps are within the onboarding process. There's a couple of tools here that I would recommend if you want to, but you know, pen and paper is just as good, if not. Once you have that kind of high level process, then the next step really is to start standardizing each of these individual steps. So standardizing the proposal elements, standardizing the information requests, standardizing what the internal setup looks like. And this is going to really help you to both improve efficiency, but also consistency, so that every time you onboard a new client, it's a consistent experience for each and every one of them. So a couple of things that you can do in order to do this. The first is you can use checklists. Checklists are really, really simple tools to pull together that help you to standardize exactly what you need to do. You can also start to create things like email templates, so that instead of reinventing the wheel every time you onboard a client and you send an email to request information, or you send an email to welcome them to the firm, you've got these templates ready just to send out on demand. So every single time it's consistent. The messaging is in line with your branding and your firm. And you as the practice owner don't have to worry about team members sending emails that have been written wrong or spelling mistakes or anything like that. So just to show you very quickly what an example of a standardized workflow process might look like, and this is just inside Pixie, you can see here on the left-hand side, we have a number of standardized subtasks. This is really the process that we want people to follow. And then for each of the subtasks, we have these things like checkboxes, which makes it really easy for people to tick things off as they go. We also have things built in like email templates. So like I was saying, building these emails up front and creating that consistent experience is just going to save so much time, because then it's just a case of, coming into Pixie or whatever practice management tool or whatever platform you're using to track your workflows, and you've already got the emails there ready to send to the client. You don't have to think about things. You don't have to do them manually. It's just a case of coming in and clicking send. Cool. And the point there is that this is really key as you scale. So, depending on the size of your firm, as you start to grow and bring on more team members and more clients, you really need these workflows documented in a place that everybody can work from them, because otherwise it's going to make delegating really difficult. Somebody once shared with me a really useful tip about delegating, which is like, there's always three things that you need. The first is that you need somebody responsible, so somebody's head on the line. The second thing is that you need a definite deadline. So you need to agree upfront what the deadline is going to be for this thing that you're delegating. And then the third and final thing is that you need a process. So if you're asking somebody to do something, you need to give them a process to follow, because otherwise you're saying, go and onboard this client by next Friday. And the person's going to go, what do I do? How do I do that? But if you give them a workflow to follow, like the one you saw just a second ago in Pixie, and I say to a member of my team, hey, just signed up a new client, Inbound Growth Limited. We need to get them set up in the next 2 weeks. Here's the onboarding workflow. Let me know if you've got any questions. That's so simple for them to follow, because they've got everything they need here already, which is going to make it really easy for you to bring on more clients and bring on more team members as you grow. You can see Abby saying, I use Pixie and it's really helped my practice with tasks and assigning them to staff. Love it. Oh, thanks, Abby. That's nice. I didn't pay Abby to say that, by the way. So once you've got your workflow, your onboarding workflow documented and standardized, and you're happy with how that works, then the next thing is to find a tool for tracking workflow. And there are many different ways you can track workflow. I've highlighted a few of them on the screen here. I'm not going to read it all word for word, but you've got spreadsheets at the very beginning. So as you start out in practice, you might be using spreadsheets to keep track of all of the things that you've got to do and the tasks that you've got to do for particular clients. From spreadsheets, you might evolve into something that's more like a task management platform. So things like Asana and Trello. These are also good. You can track to-dos, you can track tasks, you can keep track of what you've done and what you've not done. And then beyond that, you might want to evolve into something like practice management. So, Pixie is just one of them. There are a number of other practice management apps out there, but there's pros and cons to both. So, spreadsheets are great because they're quick and simple, but they're also very manual and time consuming, which is probably one of the issues that you're having right now, is that you might be using spreadsheets, but it's taking way too much time. Things like Asana and Trello, they're a step beyond, they're a little bit more automated, they're a little bit more robust. But the issue is that things like emails and files, they're not integrated. So, actual onboarding to-dos is only really one part of the onboarding process. Another part of that is keeping track of what emails you've sent to the client and what emails the client has sent to you. keeping track of the files that the client has sent you or the files that you've requested. It's really difficult to do that in tools like Asana and Trello because they don't have those things integrated. And then you move down into something like practice management, and practice management typically has these things integrated. So it's not just the to-do lists and the workflows, it's also things like emails and files, and it brings it all together under one roof and into one place. The downside of practice management typically is that it can take a little bit longer to set up. Normally they're a little bit more, not complicated, but they can be a bit more time consuming to set up. But actually, I can see a question here in the chat from, it's just gone actually, from Janet, who's saying, is the onboarding workflow in Pixie preset, or do you have to create your own? So one of the things that we've done in Pixie is that we've created a number of different onboarding templates for you so that you don't have to spend time creating this stuff. The template that you saw just a second ago, we can give you this right now in your Pixie workspace. We have a couple of other templates available as well, which I'm going to share with you later. One of them is the exact onboarding workflow template that Kieran Phelan from Cloud 360 Accounting uses in his firm. And for those that don't know Kieran, he won the Xero Small Firm of the Year award this year, earlier in the year. And he's got a really great onboarding process. And I'm going to share that template with you a little bit later on so that you can use that if you choose to. Great. So the first element was standardization. Once we've got the standardization taken care of, the next thing that we really want to focus on within our onboarding process is client experience. And the key challenge that we're trying to solve here is how do we give our clients a great, experience during those first few weeks and months? Because it's not just about ticking a few admin boxes. That stuff is really important. Don't get me wrong. You've got to do that right. But you've also got to make sure that the clients feel welcome. They feel like they're getting the service that they've signed up for and that they're paying for. Because if you don't, then you potentially lose some of that trust and goodwill that you've already built up with them. So what can we do in order to build a great client experience into our onboarding process? Well, the first thing that we need to do is that we need to systemize what good client experience looks like in the firm. Because if you have in your head, again, you think you know what client experience looks like, and you say, this is how I want to treat my clients, but nobody else in the team knows what that looks like, and it hasn't been systemized and documented in some way, shape, or form, then it's going to be really difficult for people to execute on that because they don't know what the client experience strategy or plan should look like. The second thing that we can do once we've systemized what good client experience should look like is that we can use technology to really enable a good client experience. And what I mean by that is using technology that makes it really easy for clients. So things like Practice Ignition for sending proposals, that makes it super easy for clients to sign, read, accept, pay for their proposal. It's a lot easier than sending Word documents and then separate links for setting up direct debits or filling out forms to set up mandates. That works, don't get me wrong, but it's not the easiest process. Same for requesting information. If you're currently using a document portal, and in order for the clients to access it, they have to set up a username and a password and then log in. And then the next time they go to use it, they forgot the password. So guess who they contact? You. And then they still can't remember the password. And this process repeats and repeats. It's not the best use of your time and it's not the best experience. So you look for a document management platform that makes it easier for them to upload documents without passwords. So I want to share with you how Kieran at Cloud 360 Accounting systemizes client experience during his onboarding process. And this template is something that I'll make available to you a little bit later on. So these are just some of the steps that Kieran has in his onboarding workflow process that make him and his team really deliver on a great client experience during those first few weeks and months. One of the steps is that they send out a welcome pack to the client. Inside this welcome pack, they have a PDF document that highlights the rules of the game. And the rules of the game outline exactly how things are going to work in that firm and exactly what they expect their clients to do and how they expect them to work with them. This is really, really great because it helps to manage those expectations up front, because that way you're essentially telling the client how you would like them to work with you. You're laying down the rules. You're saying, this is how we're going to work. This is how the relationship is going to work between us. And it leaves no ambiguity. The client knows exactly what they need to do. They know how things work, but it's also a really nice customer service touch. And he also includes a small gift there as well, which is great. It's a nice little value add. Another thing that's in Kieran's onboarding process is a step where he arranges a Zoom introduction call with a dedicated client manager. So whoever is responsible in his team for servicing and looking after that client, he will set up a Zoom conversation where himself, the client manager, and the client all get onto a Zoom call. He facilitates the introduction. and then he lets the client manager take it from there. So again, that's a really nice touch that doesn't take too much work to set up. This is not rocket science, guys. This is stuff you might already be doing. But what Kieran has done is he's systemized it. It's in the workflow process so that every single client that comes on board in his firm, they get the welcome pack sent, they get the introductory Zoom call. They're two things that are really simple to do that have been ticked off straight away. And the third thing that happens after that is that the client manager will then arrange some separate Zoom training to go through things like Xero, Dext, and all of the other software and cloud accounting stuff that they use in the firm. So again, really nice touch, really simple to do. You're probably already doing it, I would imagine, maybe some of you. It's just a case of systemizing it, because once we systemize it into the onboarding workflow, then we don't have to worry about whether or not it's happened or not. It's there, we go to it, we tick it off, it's done, we move to the next step, and we know that client experience is taken care of. Just do me a favor, by the way, guys, go to the chat box, let me know, are you currently systemizing, client experience touches like this? If you are, let me know, that's awesome. If you're not, just share that you're not currently doing this. I'd just be interested to see who is doing things like this and who's not. And hopefully there's, room for us all to grow and improve our processes. Vijay says, no. Janet, working towards it. Colette, not yet. Andrew, not doing this. Emmanuel, not fully. Abby, some bits. Sarah, 75%. Neil, I'm systemizing this to agree. In center. Oh, you can't use words like that in this session, Neil. That's yeah, cool. Chris, we have a process which is set out as a template on Trello. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, Trello is one of those, is another tool that's really great for managing tasks. I guess one of the challenges perhaps is that it doesn't have everything else integrated with it. Thanks for sharing, everybody. So then the third and final step that we really need to focus on within our onboarding process is automation. And this one's huge. You've all mentioned the word automation at some point, I think already in the chat or when we did the word cloud. But really the key challenges that we're looking to solve with automation are getting information in from clients on time, taking down the time that it takes to onboard a new client. So, maybe you're in that 4 to 6 hour mark distributed across several weeks. Maybe it's longer, maybe it's a bit quicker, but there's always room to, cut that down, save a bit more time so that we can get things up and running a lot faster. And then the thing that we're also looking to try and solve is just overcome this manual time-consuming onboarding process and create something that's a bit more streamlined, slick, and automated. So what can we do? Well, the first thing that we need to do is build the onboarding tech stack. Tech stack, if you don't know, it's just a buzzword that everybody uses. Essentially, it just means what are the apps that you're going to use together to really streamline and automate your onboarding process. I'm going to share some examples of what that can look like in a second. So you need to find apps to help you for requesting information and storing information from clients. You need to find an app that's going to help you to do anti-money laundering checks. And I think you need to also find an app for sending proposals and letters of engagement, because as we saw in the session earlier, that is also a really time-consuming process that we can automate it quite easily. Practice Ignition is just one option. There's Go Proposal. There's other options out there. Go check them out. But I think they're a worthwhile investment to really streamline that very first part of your onboarding process. So here's an example of what an onboarding tech stack might look like. We've got proposals in Practice Ignition and Go Proposal here to the left-hand side. We're then triggering through Zapier. I can touch on that in a second if we need to create the client record in Pixie. That then syncs with Companies House to pull through all of the deadlines and the key dates. We also connect with Xama, who you're going to see in just a second, to really streamline and automate that AML process, because that is a process that a lot of people dislike, they complain about, they're looking for ways to make it easy for them and their clients. And hopefully what Jacques is going to share with you in just a couple of seconds time is really going to open your eyes and give you another idea about how you can streamline AML. Looking beyond that, we can then trigger onboarding workflows. We can use Google Forms, Jot Forms, Cognito Forms, any form builder that has a Zapier integration to feed information back into Pixie. And then we can also schedule recurring services and make sure that the team know exactly what tasks they need to work on. Cool. So now it's time for me to have a quick breather, and I'm going to hand over the reins to Jacques. And Jacques is going to give you a quick demo of Xama and just show you how you can automate your AML, but also give your clients a really easy experience as they go through that process. So Jacques, over to you.
Thanks, Jordan. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this demonstration. I'm going to try and keep it very brief for you, just to sort of tie in with what Jordan has said, the bit of the onboarding process that we really focus on within the Pixie onboarding journey, or the customer onboarding journey, is about really streamlining and automating the bit around collecting somebody's identity document and doing an AML check. I'm fully aware that sort of your compliance processes are a bit wider than that, and we continue to talk and speak with Pixie about how we can continue to improve those processes. But what I'm going to show you is really just how you can very quickly plug in our platform into Pixie and then perform those identity document collections and the AML checks following that. So firstly, what you would need to do, and you will be able to see this within Pixie if you go to the settings sections and integrations within Pixie, you'll see our logo and name in here, and you'll see that you basically require some information here, which you will use as part of the setup process. But in order to use this, you will have to go into our website, which is at xamatech.com. And you can just follow the sign up process, and that's just going to take you through a very normal sign up process to create your account. Once you've created your account, you'll land on a page much like this one, which is your profile page. And one of the giveaways that we provide for you is to provide you with some free credits as part of that sign up process. So you'll immediately receive 30 free credits. So what I'm going to show you today, you're welcome to, whether you've got a Pixie trial account or already using Pixie, to come and sign up, set everything up, and just give it a go. It won't cost you anything. And you'll also see now just how simple it is to set that up. Once you're in here, you'll go to the integrations page. And here you can see we've got, our platform has loads of different ways of connecting to other software. But we're very proud and also thankful to Pixie, who's worked with us to be able to create a really slick, nice integration with them. And simply you'll go on to connect Pixie. The first thing that you'll see as part of the process is that you will be asked to connect your email account. So you can do this either through Google or Outlook. The reason why we connect these accounts is because when we contact your customer to ask them for their identity document, we do that from your account. We very early on in the process realized that if we're not doing that, people are not trusting the source of the request for that personal information. Next step, you're going to ask for your Pixie API key and the account, and that was what we were seeing when we went to this integrations page within Pixie. And these you can just copy and paste across as part of the process. It'll ask you for the API key and the account name, and then you can click next. That'll just establish the connection. The next part of the process, and I'm just going to skip through this one because but this allows you, and you have the option within Pixie to automate periodic checks. So you can choose to automate the AML checks on your contacts to happen every year. So you don't have that admin task of repeating these AML checks every year. So I'm just going to select yes, and I'm going to choose to do AML checks on contacts every 365 days. But you're welcome to leave that off as no, especially if you're just trying things out. Next page, and we're almost done, is the notification email. So whenever somebody submits their document or whenever a AML result may not pass, we send out some notification emails, and this is basically the email address that we will send that to. And then finally, you have the option here, and we give you like an email template, which is used to send out these requests to your customers. And so this is just a sort of email template that you can customize, and you'll see in a moment what that looks like when your customer receives an email from you asking them for their document. And that's pretty much it. Once you've completed that process, you can always come back to these configuration settings. It's very easy to turn it off if you need to. And you can also change any of that configuration settings in the future. But you wouldn't really need to come into our portal after that, because all of your AML checks can now happen straight from in Pixie. That's why I'm going to be jumping back into Pixie now, where I've set up a client. You can see I've just called it Xama Pixie 10, and I've created one contact against that client. If you're not familiar with the sort of Pixie layout, it's very easy to do. Just create a client, create a contact against it. And then what you're able to do against the contact is you'll see as part of the setup process, we've created custom fields against this particular contact. That really differentiates Pixie actually from some of the other practice management systems out there, because we can create these custom fields and we can save all your AML information back into Pixie against that. And you also have the ability to add some of that information in here. And you can even create additional custom fields to record additional notes and things like that you want to make as part of the process. But very simply, the process I'm going to show you is to try and onboard myself here by requesting an identity document from me, and then following that up by an AML check. And all I need to do that is the name and email address. I'm going to toggle this queue for onboarding on, and I'm going to save that contact. And what we do as part of this process then is fire off an email from your email account, because we've linked that up, and your customer will receive this email, which basically is again customizable. That's the template we were looking at. And it's got a link to ask them to complete an onboarding process. So if they click on that link, most of your customers will do that on their phone. So that's why this is quite a phone-friendly interface. But you can also do it from a laptop as well. There's nothing stopping them from doing it here and just uploading an existing copy they have. You can either look up an address, or they can type in their address here. We need their home address really to be able to do an AML check on them. The next part of the process is for them to upload a passport or driving license. I'm going to upload a passport today. It's not going to be a real passport. When it's sort of webinars like this, I have to just use a passport that is smudged out. So don't expect very good results here. But that's basically your customer journey, and much easier for them to do it on their phone. They basically just take a picture of the passport as part of this journey. And you'll see momentarily the upload completes. And then just so you're aware, we basically use other providers. So Xama Technologies link into GVG, which is our main provider, to process these documents. But as soon as that's processed, this record within Xama, within Pixie, will now look a lot different. So you can see, because I've completed that process, my onboarding status here has now gone to AML check complete. So our platform has actually already completed an AML check. We've recorded back the home address details, which they have given us. The document type came back as unknown, and document result is not supported. And that's not surprising, because we've basically used a smudged out document. But if you wanted to go and have a look at why that is, these links that goes into our platform is provided for you. And here you can download that report. And if this is a valid document, this report is a lot longer. It'll give you all of that extracted information about the name, the date of birth, and it also includes a whole bunch of verification checks. But because it's too blurry, it's basically stopped at the blur check and it's sort of checked out there. But otherwise, you'll have about 2 pages of checks which sort of corroborate the numbers on there. It also looks for digital tampering and so on. The second part of the check, so that's the first part of the check. The second part of the check is the AML check. So we continue to do that because we basically have enough information with the first name, last name, and address to continue with an AML check. And again, we provide you with a link to that AML report. So if I go into that AML report, you'll see here the input information that we've used, along with the result at the top. Importantly, and why we encourage people to use our identity document collection process, is that when we collect that identity document, and unfortunately it's not easy for me to show it here, we also extract that passport number automatically from that document, as well as the date of birth. So normally, if this was a real life situation where I could use a real document, you would also have the date of birth and the passport number here. And that really increases the match rates that we can get, because that additional information is also used to find additional matches. The other bit, we do PEP and sanctions matches. So you'll get a PEP and sanctions report here. You can see it's normally quite easy to either confirm the match or dismiss that match. And that just obviously goes into your other risk assessment process. And then you can scroll down here and you can see all of the checks that was carried out as part of the AML check as well. But that's as simple as that process is. And something I've recently been showing people as well, the big advantage of getting everything within Pixie, your AML checks, your last AML check date, all of that information is within Pixie. And if you do a export of your clients from Pixie, you simply go to clients and you do a export clients to CSV file. Then you can open that list of contacts within Pixie. And this is just me having opened this up before. But within here, you can basically see all of your contacts. You can see exactly the status in which their AML check is. You can see that information. And you have your results here. You have the last date of the AML check. And having all of your clients within this process means that you just have one place to basically check all of those, all of that information. So there's a little bit more options and features that you can use with this integration. If you go to our resources section, you'll see there's a Pixie integration guide in there. I would encourage you to sort of download this PDF, give it a read through. That's got some additional information in there on how you can just use it for AML checks without the document, or just collect the document. But I hope that sort of gave you a good overview of how quickly it is to just get set up, get going, use those 30 free credits. And last thing, if you go to buy credits, you'll see once we've connected Pixie up, you'll also automatically receive a 20% discount on our normal price. So you'll pay £1.60 for an AML check, and it's £2 to collect that identity document and address from the customer. So let me just check if there's any Q&A things that I need to answer. Does Xama integrate with other CRMs? Yes, we do. We've got both a Zapier integration that we use, and we've also got an Integromat integration. Those are great tools to connect to other systems. However, our Pixie integration is really the easiest to set up and the nicest to get going just on your own. Probably if you want to integrate into other CRM, I would recommend you just contact us and we'll take you through the process of doing that. let me see anything. The Australian question, we always get that one. At the moment, the actual AML check will not work within Australia, but you can collect the identity documents. In Australia, this report that I showed you with the identity document, that works internationally. The way you would just collect an identity document is if you go into the configuration settings here, there's actually a configuration setting here to exclude the automated AML from the process. So you would do exactly what I did. It would just collect the document and it won't do the AML check. We're looking at including Australia, but it's not yet included. If we have scanned documents for clients on file, can we then upload to Pixie? You can do that. The only way, unfortunately, to do that at the moment is to use a bit of a workaround. You can change the address or the email on that particular contact temporarily to your own. You send the onboarding request and you basically complete the onboarding request on behalf of your customer. That will then upload the document, create that link to access the report. That will obviously take a verification check, and therefore that will also cost £2 to do. So that's not always advisable, or you don't always want to be doing that. You can also just keep that document aside and just choose to do the AML check. So in order to have your AML information in Pixie and those AML checks happening in Pixie, you don't need to do the document part of it. You can also just enter the information, run an AML check, and that would then be there just without the document information as well. It is really nice to have that document information in one place though. So depending on how many there are, it might be worth the cost for you to do it. I think that's one more. When the request is sent to the client to upload documents for AML checks, is there a time period within which it must be completed? Are credits taken for sending the request or for receiving a response from the client? Very good question. No, there isn't a time period in which they need to respond. You can send out that request as many times as you like, so almost as a reminder, and that won't cost you any more. That won't cost you any more credits. However, credits are allocated, so it's not consumed. Credits are allocated as soon as you send out that request to the client, so it's not free to use for another request. If you have done that, the credits are consumed as soon as they complete that process. If they haven't completed that process, you can still delete that report and it would free up those credits again. Yeah, so there's no time period, and the credits are only used when they submit it, but it is kept there so that your user never gets the message to say, oh, you've run out of credits, basically. One credit is not equal to one check. If I go to the usage report in here, you'll basically see, so you get 33 credits to start with. To capture a document is 5 credits, and the verification and an AML check is 4 credits. So you can basically put 3 full people through this process using those 33 credits. Or if you just want to do AML checks, you can sort of do up to 6 or 7 AML checks using those credits. But yeah, we have sort of different other services that require less credits and more credits, but those are the ones for the AML and ID. Some are work in New Zealand. Same answer as on the Australian side. I'm afraid it works for the identity document collection, and as part of the configuration setting, I would basically set this to enabled. That will just make sure you're never running an automated AML check. and you can still collect the person's home address and the identity document through the process, but you would then have to use another service to do the AML check. New Zealand and Australia are both on our list to try and add the AML check facility in there. It just takes quite a bit of time to get these things through our providers, actually. So I think that's it. Hopefully.
Thank you very much, Jacques. I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah.
We have another session coming up. If anybody's asked any questions or you've got any further questions regarding AML, I've put Jacques' email address in the chat. You can reach him there. There is a question around pricing from Colette. Would it be £2 per client for the full document collection and AML?
So the full the document collection is £2, and the AML check following that is £1.60. The total process there is £3.60. I mentioned that you could automate recurring checks into the future. Then we would only be doing the AML part of it. So that is just £1.60 for that.
Perfect. So just a very quick recap then, everybody, before we wrap up. So we've identified that there's a couple of challenges with onboarding, especially with AML. By the sounds of things, it sounds like a challenge that everybody's struggling with, but there's also challenges around keeping track of onboarding tasks, making sure that our clients have a good experience, getting information from clients on time, and actually, taking the time that it takes to onboard people down from 4 to 6 hours to wherever it needs to be. A few ways we can do that. The first is standardization. We can document the onboarding workflow, and then we also need a system to actually help us keep track of not just the tasks, but emails, files, AML information, and everything else that goes in. If we can get that together in one place, it's going to make your life and the life of your team members so much easier because it's all together in one app. We also need to focus on client experience, and we can do that by systemizing what a good client experience looks like in the firm. Using apps like Pixie, Xama, Practice Ignition, Go Proposal, everything else. These apps make it really easy for the clients, but also for yourself. So think about the tech that you can use and think about how you can systemize client experience within your workflow process. And then the third thing that we were looking at is automation. How do we automate things? How do we find the right apps to put into our onboarding tech stack to request information, to do the AML checks, and to send proposals to clients? So if anybody on here is wanting to standardize their onboarding workflow process, to keep track of all of your onboarding to-dos, emails, files, etc. in one place, to automate some of these manual processes like requesting information, like anti-money laundering checks, and you'd also like to give your clients a really effortless experience and a great experience as they onboard into your firm, then I'd encourage you to go and start a 30-day free trial of Pixie. You've seen some of what Pixie can do very briefly in this session. I didn't want to do too much of a demo because I wanted Jacques to be able to showcase Xama. But if you're interested in learning more about Pixie, I'll just share the link for you in the chat now. We have a 30-day free trial, and we have a number of pre-made onboarding workflow templates available. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You can use the existing templates that are available. It's really easy to customize them. It literally takes 2 minutes or less to add and remove steps, reorder them, rewrite the emails, building new checklists. There's a couple of Pixie users in here in the chat, and hopefully they can share with you just how easy it is to customize these workflows. But if you're looking for that solution to help you streamline and automate your onboarding in one place, then yeah, I encourage you to go start a 30-day free trial. Let me know if you've got any questions, and I'm more than happy to help. We don't really have much time apart from the next 30 seconds for a Q&A, because I do have to start the next webinar. So I'm just going to quickly scan the chat. No, okay. Pamela, can we have a link to the next session? You can, if you give me 2 seconds. I can see a question that's come in here asking for the Cloud 360 workflow template. So all of the workflow templates are going to be sent out by email after the final session. So they'll probably be with you for about 2 o'clock this afternoon, if that's okay, guys. I've just got one more workshop to do after this, and then I'll make sure that you've got all of the workflow templates, all of the recordings and everything else from all of the workshops that we've been going through. So here's the session, the link for the next session. I've just put that in the chat now. If anyone has any more questions regarding Xama, I put Jacques' email address in the chat, so please contact him. He'll be more than happy to help. Likewise, if you've got any questions about Pixie, please email me. I'll put my email address in here, and I'm also happy to help answer any questions you have about Pixie, onboarding, workflows, etc. So thank you very much for joining the session. Appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully I'll see more of you in the next session starting in 5 minutes' time. Thanks very much.